are learning about these new potential charges, really the criminal statutes. Right. In the letter that the special counsel sent. So tell us what's significant here, what stands out to you, and which one is perhaps most damaging potentially for former President Trump.
I think the most all-encompassing one is conspiracy to defraud the United States, because the theory of that case is that Donald Trump and people around him knew that he lost the election, but put forth these fraudulent allegations that the election was stolen and used the levers of power, the levers of government, to try to slow down and stop the lawful transfer of power, including with these fake elector schemes in 7 states, including potentially trying to use the Justice Department and other ways. There's also a couple of statutes that we're less sure how they fit into this whole case. Tampering with a witness, that could involve obstruction of justice, and then deprivation of rights under color of law, which could mean a lot of different things, and I think it's not 100% clear yet.
Yeah, so let me get to you, Tim, on this really quickly. You helped investigate the weeks leading up to January 6th. It's important for those who are joining us. When we talk about January 6th here, I think the assumption is we're talking about the images on the steps of the Capitol that day, but this is obviously something much wider that goes into the days and weeks leading up to January 6th as well. Where, based on your knowledge here, do you think that Jack Smith has the most evidence?
Yeah, Peter, look, we at the Select Committee in our criminal referral started that section of the report and started the hearing at which we made those referrals with 1512C. That's the obstruction of an official proceeding statute. That is the statute that the Justice Department has been using for some of the rioters that they have charged already. And I continue to think that that's the one most consistent with the evidence. As you said, that's not just what happened on January 6th. That it allows the Justice Department to paint the picture of the multi-pronged plan that goes back arguably even before the election to take steps to prevent the lawful transfer of power. So my assumption has been all along from the time we concluded our work and turned over our materials to the special counsel to today that 1512 tampering with a witness statute, which is really obstruction with the official proceeding, is the theory here that would fit within that statute. That's likely the lead count.
Tim, let me ask you, if I can, what other charges you think the special counsel may be considering here? Again, they are not limited to the criminal statutes referred to in the target letter. Defrauding donors, obviously something that got a lot of attention from your team as well.
Yeah, well, as Ken said, the 371 conspiracy to disrupt the lawful function of government is another part of our criminal referral. There's the false statements or the submission of a fraudulent document that would correspond to the fake electors. And yeah, Peter, as you just said, there's a lot of evidence that the incessant Stop the Steal fundraising that was based both on sort of false representations of election fraud and B, an assertion that this money was going to some kind of election defense fund that was non-existent. Those are false statements to consumers that you could argue, a prosecutor could argue, constitutes a scheme to defraud. You're lying to people in an attempt to get their money. That could also be something that the special counsel ultimately charges.
I'm struck as we look at that graphic. You just see the sort of legal tentacles now that continue to expand from Donald Trump here. Garrett, let me ask you specifically what we are hearing from the former president, from his team right now. The argument he's tried to make, right, is that, hey, I thought I won this thing. I still believe I won this thing. Is that going to sell?
Well, there'll be people close to him who will testify to that fact, too. And I think legally speaking, they want to hang their hat on the idea that this is political speech, the most protected speech under the First Amendment. And everything he did while he was, filing all these lawsuits and giving all these speeches was, in his belief, an effort to defend his political rights as the lawful winner of the election. How that holds up in a court of law is another question, but it does conveniently dovetail with the political arguments he's making to be elected for a second time as president, essentially saying, look, I was fighting for you, my voters then, I'm fighting for you now, and look what they're trying to do to me. So he's kind of juggling this legal and political issue at the same time.
Tim, let me ask you, if I can, we learned today also about Jack Smith obtaining footage of State Farm Arena. That's the arena in Atlanta from Election Day in 2020. That's the same location, importantly, that Rudy Giuliani falsely accused Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss, you remember those names, of smuggling votes. Again, a false claim that Rudy Giuliani made. Why would investigators be so interested in that location?
Yeah, two reasons. That A is defense. This is Jack Smith trying to rebut any possible claim of election fraud. The president has said repeatedly, continues to say, that there was fraud at the State Farm Arena, that these suitcases of ballots were pulled out from under a table after hours. The footage rebuts that. The other thing that's important is that it goes to his state of mind, because that very precise fact pattern was investigated thoroughly by the Justice Department, by the FBI, by Bill Barr, and he was told, we had testimony directly that Bill Barr told the president, that Rich Donahue, the Deputy Attorney General, told the president the State Farm Arena claim of fraud is false. We've looked at it and it just does not hold up. Nonetheless, the president continued to spout that theory, and that goes directly to his state of mind, and that's why it's of interest to Jack Smith.
At this point.